This wasn't just a poker tournament, it was the most expensive one ever played. The Triton Million. 1.05 euro million to buy in, 19 million euros on top, and every seat filled with killers, billionaires, or both. The air wasn't tense, it was electric. And when the cards hit the felt, it didn't take long for the fireworks to start. The chips were massive, the egos even bigger, and at the heart of it all was a quiet player named Aaron Zang, watching, waiting, and preparing to flip the script on poker history. But before he could rise, giants would fall. 6 players were left. Bryn Kenney held a mountain of chips and a track record of punishment. Chidwick said focused, deadly accurate. Vivek Rajkumar held a strong stack and a fearless reputation. Dan Smith, consistent and always dangerous. Bill Perkins was the wild card, rich, unpredictable, and playing for fun and glory. And then there was Aaron Zang, patient, steady, almost invisible, until he wasn't. Each of these players had survived 2 brutal days of action, and now, with millions locked up, every bet, raise, and stare down was worth more than most people's lifetime earnings. The cameras rolled, the cards flew, and eliminations? Oh, they were coming fast. The first massive pot didn't send anybody home, but it sent a message. Vivek picked up 10-9 of hearts on the bottom. He opened light. Dan Smith in the small blind looked down at pocket jacks. 1 heart, 1 clubs. This was a setup. Vivek flopped a gut shot and started pressuring. Smith didn't back down. On a jack high board, Smith had top set. Vivek kept betting, trying to represent something stronger, but Smith didn't blink. By the river, Vivek fired again, bluffing into a break. Smith snap-called and showed him the jacks. Vivek mugged. No bust-out, but a brutal hit. He lost nearly 8 million in chips.
All in?
The answer is yes, Daniel, as Smith says all in, a snap call from Vivek. And Dan will look
Pretty doable.
at the bad news.
Plenty of outs here for Dan Smith. He can catch runner straights, 2 pair. He's a 3 or a 4 or a jack to stay alive. And there it is. Wow. Things just not going Vivek's way for most of this final table. New chip leader, Dan Smith, with the catch of the jack on the river. Wow.
My goodness. Rajkumar losing the hard way to the jack.
Well, that one's gonna sting for sure.
And just like that, the tone was set. Nobody was folding light. Nobody was giving up pots. This was high-stakes warfare at its grittiest. Bill Perkins had been patient, but in poker, patience runs out. He looked down at a King-10 offsuite. It wasn't a monster, but it was good enough for a shove given his stack. Kenney woke up with ace-ace, brutal setup. There wasn't much tanking. Perkins shoved, Kenney snapped. When the cards hit the felt, Perkins smiled. He knew he needed help. The board ran dry. No kings, no 10s, no miracle. And just like that, Bill Perkins was out in 6th place. 2.67 million payday. But he wanted more. He fist bumped his way out, but the game had just lost its wild card. Kenney barely reacted. He just stacked chips.
And the turn really putting the nail into Perkins' coffin as Kenney makes aces full, and a well-deserved round of applause for Bill Perkins, who tips his cap and is the second to last.
The pot put him in full control, and the rest of the table felt it. After Perkins busted, most expected Kenney to run away with it, but Aaron Zang wasn't here to fold. In one of the biggest spots so far, he defended with Jack-7 offsuite. Not premium, not pretty, but he called Kenney's raise anyway. Kenney held ace-jack of diamonds, dominating Zang and pushing the action. The flop came, jack high. Zang made top pair, Kenney had top pair with a better kicker and a backdoor flush draw. The chips flew, Zang shoved. Kenney snap called. It was a massive pot and Zang was behind. The turn and river bricked out. No diamonds, no ace. Zang's weaker jack held. The room buzzed. Kenney leaned back, stunned. Zang, quiet fist pump, and then He just stacked the chips and reset.
Now a 10 on the turn, providing some chop outs.
I'll take it.
Any 9-10 or ace, and Kenney will send a Zang packing. Instead, it's a 6. And a quiet fist pump from Aaron Zang as he's picking up some Kenney bucks.
Our last non-pro in the field, Aaron Zang.
It wasn't just a pot, it was a power shift. Zang wasn't just hanging on, he was fighting back, and he had just cracked the table's alpha. This was the one, the hand that made poker history. Dan Smith opened with pocket eights, 8 of hearts and 8 of clubs. Zang, sitting on ace king of diamonds, went all in for just under 6 million. Kenney got out of the way. Smith called. The room held its breath. The flop came. King of hearts, jack of diamonds, jack of spades. Zang took the lead. Top pair, top kicker. Smith in deep trouble. The turn, 4 of clubs. No help. 1 card to go. River, brick. Zang scooped the single largest pot ever played in tournament poker, nearly 23 million. Smith survived thanks to earlier chip leads, but that pot changed everything.
But instead, Zang's aggression looking like it'll pay off, as Kenney would have had quads.
Phew!
GG.
Avoided disaster there.
Oh, I got super lucky.
Yeah.
Speaking of disaster, Zang just swung a big sword through Smith's stack.
Zang, quiet all night, now had momentum. And Smith, he looked rattled. This wasn't just a hand, it was a shift in gravity. Vivek had been battling all day, but at this point, with just 4.3 million chips and ace-8 of clubs on the bottom, it was time to move. He shoved, and it looked like a good spot, until Bryn Kenney woke up with pocket aces. Brutal timing. Kenney made the easy call, and suddenly Vivek was walking a tightrope. The flop came. 10, 7, deuce, a rainbow board. Vivek had backdoor hope, but that was it. The turn brought the 9 of spades, still nothing. And when the 3 of diamonds rolled off on the river, it was done. Bryn dragged the pot. Vivek, once the chip leader, was out in 5th place. No blow-ups, no fireworks, just a cruel math of tournament poker. He took it like a pro though. Handshakes, a nod, and a quiet 3 million payout on his way out the door.
10-7 deuce rainbow and some backdoor prospects for Rajkumar.
9 of spades on the turn. Whoop, nope.
Drawing dead after the 3 of diamonds rolls off, and we lose another combatant here in the Triton Million. They're down to just 4. Vivek Rajkumar, the cash game specialist, can't hang his head as he gets some love from Rick Solomon and Paul Pua.
He's got to be disappointed having come in with the chip lead to finish in 5th place, but
just like that, the final 4 were set. With Vivek gone, Dan Smith found himself navigating dangerous waters. When he looked down at 8-2 of spades, he decided to go to work. He raised light. Zang defended with 5-4 of clubs. The flop came. Ace of clubs, king of hearts, and 4 of diamonds. Zang had bottom pair. Smith just ate high, but that didn't stop him. He fired a C-bet. Zang called. The turn, 9 of spades. Smith bet again, repping strength. Zang stayed sticky, still ahead. Then came the river. No help for either. And yet Smith triple-barreled anyway. Zang tanked. He had a pair. He had every reason to call. But Smith had told a consistent, terrifying story. After a long pause, Zang folded the best hand. Smith didn't celebrate. He just took the pot and stayed in the fight. That wasn't luck. It was pure pressure, and it worked. Smith looked calm, but he'd need more than calm to survive what was coming next.
bet on the ace-king flop, another bet on the turn. Can't imagine his 4 is good very often.
Down he goes, and the chip leader starting to flex his might.
Absolutely. Aggression paying off for Dan Smith. He is going to be tough to beat.
Stephen Chidwick had been playing clean, calculated poker all night, but this one cracked him. Sitting on pocket sevens with about 14.6 million, he opened for 1.1 million. Bryn Kenney with King Jack offsuite in the big blind didn't hesitate. He shoved all in. Oh, it was a bold move. But with his massive chip lead, it was the kind of pressure only Kenney could apply. Chidwick tanked, everything on the line. After a long pause, he called. Almost 30 million in the middle. Biggest pot of his tournament. But disaster struck. The flop, a king. Just like that, Kenney took the lead. No help on the turn. In the river, a brick.
No, a 10 on the end, and Sensei Bryn Kenney up to 39 million as Stephen Chidwick has been eliminated just like that.
Unbelievable. Such an incredibly well-played final table from Stephen Chidwick. Picks up 4.4 million pounds, but he had his eyes on the top prize.
We'll leave behind just 3 players in the hunt for the 19 million pound first place prize.
Chidwick was out in fourth, 4.4 million richer, but miles away from the title he was chasing. Dan Smith had been disciplined all day, but with just over 10 million chips in ace-10 offsuite, he pulled the trigger, all in. Bryn, holding queen 10 of hearts, made the call. The flop came down, and there it was, queen in the window. Top pair for Kenney. Smith still had outs, but he needed help. The turn, another queen. Trips for Kenney. Now Smith needed a miracle. The river, a blank. 2 of spades. And just like that, Dan Smith's Triton run was over. He took home 8.1 million. Massive by any standard, but no title, no trophy. Just a deep breath and a handshake. Kenney didn't flinch. He raked in a monster pot and now had Zang in his sights.
Queens for Kenney on the turn, and now only the king will work. Can Smith hit it? No, a deuce of spades on the end. Dan Smith eliminated in third place, and Sensei Bryn Kenney will take a huge chip lead, heads up against Aaron Zang.
With Dan Smith out in third place, Bryn Kenney.
It wasn't just the end of Smith's run, it was the start of the heads-up war. Zang versus Kenney, the grinder versus the bulldozer. One patient, one aggressive, and from the very first hand, it was clear Zang wasn't scared. Kenney opened wide, Zang pushed back, he defended his blinds, he floated flops, he jammed light. Kenney still had the chip lead, but the fear was gone. Zang wasn't folding, he wasn't backing down. This was it, the final hand. It started small, just a raise from Zang with 8-5 of diamonds. Kenney called with ace-6 of spades, sweeted. Dangerous, perfect for a trap. Then the flop hit, 4 of spades, 8 of spades, 3 of clubs. Zang made top pair. Kenney flopped 2 overcards and the nut flush draw. Zang led for 2 million. Kenney raised to over 5 million. Zang didn't blink, he shoved. And Kenney, with all the outs in the world, called. The pot climbed to 49 million. 1 card to come. The turn brought the 9 of clubs. The river, king of diamonds. Missed everything. No spade, no ace, just a pair of 8s standing alone.
You're going to see a call from Bryn Kenney here with the nut flush draw. And this is it, ladies and gentlemen.
This is the moment. Potentially. He needs an ace or a spade on the river. Otherwise, Aaron Zang is your Triton Million champion. And a king on the end seals Aaron Zang in the annals of poker history, your Triton Million champion.
What a comeback at this final table.
And just like that, Aaron Zang had won the Triton Million. People rose from their seats. Cameras zoomed in. Applause broke through the tension like thunder. The quietest man in the room had just conquered the loudest moment in poker. Zang stood slowly. No fists in the air, no theatrics, just that small, peaceful smile that said everything. And the poker world would never forget his name. Aaron Zang, Triton Million champion. What would you do with 8-5 offsuite in the world watching? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want to see how a humble waiter stunned the poker world and turned a few big bets into millions, tap the card to watch Scott Blumstein's jaw-dropping win at the WSOP main event.